These are your week 14 fantasy football wide receiver rankings. Since we're posting this right after Thursday Night Football, thank you for tuning in. This list, Hayden, does not include 5 gentlemen: CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jameson Williams, Isaac Tesla, and maybe most importantly, the Senator, Tom Kennedy.
Yeah, big Tom Kennedy night we're hoping for. But 3 of those guys you mentioned were actually in my top 5. So hopefully we have a shootout here. Otherwise, get in the comments and go yell at me.
It's really frustrating for me that the one show where Jameson Williams would be a top 5 player. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to jinx him ahead of this Thursday night.
We'll see.
Maybe he was number 1 if he balled out. The real number 1 that you have is actually the wide receiver 5 in consensus rankings. This is Puka Nacua. Still have not had my question answered by Sean McVay as to why he does not score red zone touchdowns. But Hayden, what we do know is that over the last 2 weeks, since Tyler Higbee has been injured, he's ran 86% of the routes on the team, which is a huge bump up here. And this is definitely a contest at the Arizona Cardinals where he and Davante Adams can shine.
Yeah, I mean, classic no touchdown, but very productive stat coming your way right here. Last year against the Arizona Cardinals, he had 10 receptions, 129 yards, 0 touchdowns, but 14 targets. So yeah, one of these days it'll turn around. He's projected for 91.5 receiving yards, which I believe is the most in the pick'em lobby. Like you said, he's running more routes, like basically back to his baseline. The Rams are projected for the 3rd most points. They're indoors. Walter Nolan and Josh Sweat, they're probably their 2 best defensive linemen, are on the injury report through Thursday once again here. So lots of zone coverage, and kind of Puka sitting in zone coverage is kind of like the way that they move the football.
Next, Rashee Rice, your wide receiver 2. This is against the Houston Texans. We've talked about it all week long that this Texans defense and the cornerbacks that they have on the outside can probably shut down a lot of man coverage. Now, what I would love Andy Reid to do, go sacrifice Xavier Worthy, go sacrifice Hollywood Brown, and just allow Rashee Rice to run in the slot 100% of the time and just see what happens.
Yeah, initially when I see the matchup, I was like inclined to move Rashee Rice down, and then the more I kind of dug into it, I was like, okay, he should be pretty safe here. So I have some worries about the Chiefs offense. Their left tackle, right guard, right tackle all might miss. The left tackle for sure is out. But what does that mean? They're probably going to have to get the ball out immediately. And what does that mean? More targets to Rashee Rice. So I do think that, like, based off the matchup, you'd want to get the ball out to Rashee Rice. On top of that, the Texans play a lot of zone coverage and they don't blitz. In those settings, Rashee Rice has a 31% target share, 3.2 yards per route. Zone coverage, working over the middle, just where Rashee Rice is at his best. So like you said, with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Taekwon, you guys go get Stingley down the field. Rashee Rice will work against linebackers and safeties over the middle. And I think he's going to be all right. I don't trust the entire Chiefs operation round because of the offensive line, but I do think that the way they are going to move the football, which they have the entire year, so they can move the football, it's with Rashee Rice.
I wouldn't be surprised if D'Amico Ryans does change his tendencies, though, and goes with heavy dose of man coverage.
They should.
Yeah, and I feel like other teams have done that against the Chiefs this year. But like you said, even with that in mind, even if they do shift things, that 43% of the receptions that wide receivers have against the Texans have come from the slot. That's the 5th highest rate in the NFL. Okay, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, off his lowest performance of the season, is your number 3 wide receiver. He is at the Atlanta Falcons, a Falcons defense that really likes to blitz and play a ton of single high coverage. And that gives us arguably the most efficient downfield wide receiver in the NFL.
What I have noticed, though, and I saw this definitely with Minnesota, is a lot more safeties kind of going to JSN's side and trying to remove the deep pass. Like, guess what? Like, it's easier said than done, but that would make sense if that's going to be something that JSN's going to have to work through. You have AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates. The Falcons also kind of run some of the crazy looks that we saw Sam Darnold and the entire operation with the Vikings kind of struggle with. Atlanta's also allowed the fewest yards after a catch to wide receivers this season. They're definitely more of a run funnel defense. So this is not my favorite matchup. That said, Seahawks are projected for 26 points. This is a good spot just in general, looking at the team total. There's some weather that we're going to have to talk about with some other matchups, not dealing with that here. And JSN's been a total baller. The cornerback, opposite AJ Terrell has just gotten diced up in a whole bunch of spots this season. That has been Natron Brooks in the past. We'll see if he's still out there in the starting lineup. I do wonder if they are shading like Jesse Bates over to JSN's side and have AJ Terrell on him
if this is the time that like the Rashid Shaheed trade pays off. Just hoping. I mean, they're second in the league in the rate of single high coverages at 64% right now. Next, Ja'Marr Chase, your wide receiver 4 at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo has not allowed a 100-yard wide receiver since week 6, and that almost perfectly aligns with them getting healthier at their cornerback spot.
Yes, and at the same time, that also works with Ed Oliver removed from the defensive tackle spot and everybody choosing to run on Buffalo. That's just been the status of the Buffalo Bills defense. This is a game with weather. Now, we're recording this multiple days in advance here, but it's supposed to be in the 20s with snow. So it makes me a little bit nervous just because it's like Joe Burrow and his toe working like on a slippery surface. Like I have like a little bit of hesitancy there. I thought Burrow looked the part last week, but that was in like ideal circumstances. This is a little bit less so. So Ja'Marr Chase still projected for a bunch, but I did float out a like weather related kind of lowers underdog projection that I was hitting Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow, and then like more James Cook carries than even normal.
Kevin Roth does, I think, the best fantasy weather work over at Roto Grinders. We always cite him on the Sunday morning start sit show. So always join us for that one. We'll have an update on this game. Just love to note that quote. While some notable quarterbacks, including Tom Brady, have said they prefer playing in a light snow because it slows down the pass rush and allows a bit more time for decision making, I still consider this a slight downgrade to offense. So just something to keep in mind.
Shots fired at Tom Brady.
Non-professionals.
Right.
Davante Adams, your wide receiver 5, again, against the Arizona Cardinals. Davante Adams is up to 24 end zone targets right now, according to Rich Rebar's worksheet. Those only started to be tracked back in 2005, which seems quite recent. But the most recorded in a season for end zone targets was Mike Evans in 2016 at 26. I mean, we still have 5 games to play here for Davante Adams to set the record by 1 million.
Yeah. I mean, he's breaking my charts. I put out my expected touchdown model, and Davante Adams is pretty much like doubling up everybody else out there. So he's only projected for 52.5 receiving yards, according to the Underdog Pick'em Lobby. And I don't care. I mean, I could not care less. So third highest team total. In theory, the way that the Cardinals play defense is like not where Davante Adams is absolutely shredding, but the projected for 28 damn points, and they're in a dome.
Right. The fastest way to 6 points is a touchdown, not 60 yards.
Correct. Very fast from 1 yard out.
Nico Collins is the wide receiver 6. This is at the Kansas City Chiefs. Cannot wait for this game. Reeves noted that in his worksheet, CeeDee Lamb on Thanksgiving was the first 100-yard receiver against this Chiefs defense all season long. They've played, the third highest rate of 2 high coverage so far this year. Nico Collins against 2 high shells. Now he's had Davis Mills for some of that, and obviously CJ Stroud wasn't playing as well as he probably was, as he probably could. His yards per route run, whatever metric you want to use, about a yard worse against 2 high versus single high.
Yeah, I was just going back to that Chiefs game. Like Trent McDuffie was just getting absolutely owned. Like there was like even some defensive pass interferences too. So I don't know what's going on over there. I've also noticed that when Spagnuolo is like bringing pressure this year, it's just like not getting his home as well.
They're like 30th in EPA and success rate and everything when blitz this season. It's awful.
Yeah. That's like, they used to be like first, and they would have the right answers. The other thing I'm just noticing, and there's some data to kind of back it up, like the PFF win rates and some other tracking data. The Texans offensive line has just kind of gelled. They made some pivots, got some veterans in the lineup, and they kind of like gelled. They're like an all right pass protection defense right now. So obviously a huge game here, but the Texans are passing the ball a little bit more. This offense just feels like it's structured a little bit better. It got the end around to Nico Collins, maybe a little bit more creativity nowadays versus previous. So I think like on the up and up for Nico Collins. It's still a difficult matchup going against these Chiefs outside corners, but they're not playing it so well that we have to knock down this matchup at all. So I think he's a for sure wide receiver 1.
100%. Okay, time to shock people just a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe they're in the know. Michael Wilson, he plays wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, is your wide receiver 7. This is against the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, simply put, if Marv is down, Wilson is a must play.
Easy must play. So yeah, I'm totally back. We've had him as a wide receiver 1 before, and we're doubling down here. Here's the thing. The Cardinals are expected to lose by like 10 points. You're in a dome. I don't think that the Cardinals defense is going to stop the Rams. What happens then? We get a million dropbacks from Jakobi.
From the second series.
It does not even matter. So right now, the Cardinals are number 1 in neutral pass rate. It's not even close. How you can sometimes run on the Rams, but really right now, because of some injuries. So Roger McCreary, who they just traded for, he's on IR. Quentin Lake, kind of like a safety nickel player for them. He's on injured reserve. Emmanuel Forbes just got whooped by your Panthers. Michael Wilson can play and Jacoby Brissett could spin it. So like this is the exact same formula where Michael Wilson was posting up those ridiculous numbers. So I've taken the higher on his receiving yards already. It started in the 40s. Now, last time I checked, it was at 55.5. If Marvin Harrison is ruled out, I think the number should even be higher than that. And he hasn't practiced in the last 2 days.
There it is. Yep. Michael Wilson's all the way up to 63.5 receiving yards in the pick'em section of Underdog right now. If you've never played on the Dog app, now is the time to do so. We're in over 40 states at the moment, including 20 states. If you want to take sides and totals, if you live in Texas or Georgia or Florida or California, many of the most beautiful, gorgeous states out there have Underdog on the ticket. So go click the link in the description down below. Use promo code The Show. If you play $5 your first time, we'll give you $75 in bonus cash. So go support us by playing on Underdog. By the way, Michael Wilson, just the wide receiver 17 in consensus rankings this week. So that's your onion hanger of the week. Chris Olave, wide receiver 8 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He caught 8 of 12 targets for 63 yards when these teams met back in week 8.
Just expect a bunch of targets as usual. There's done a really good job with, I think, designing the offense. And there's only one way to design the offense when you're facing Tampa Bay. That's to throw it. So teams facing the Buccaneers this year have the highest or the second highest neutral pass rate across the league. That makes sense. You don't want to run it at Vita Vea. You throw it at their secondary. Olave has been used underneath this year, sometimes in the screen game, but some quick outs and whatnot that establishes a floor. And then I'll come out and say it. I think that Tyler Shuck, there's a little bit of a ceiling here. He's making more plays out of structure. He can throw the ball downfield. Olave a couple times in this last game could have been hit deep down the field, but they're taking their shots there. So this month he's the wide receiver 12 on wide receiver 13 usage. I think it's all totally safe at this point. And the team total is like no longer at the 16s. It's closer to like 20, which is not that far from the average. So Tyler Shuck, he interests me. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think he's playing decent.
I'll save the Tyler Shuck conversation for tomorrow. So we have some more stuff to discuss on the quarterbacks and tight ends show. Okay. Jaylen Waddle is your wide receiver 9. This is at the New York Jets, who we know traded away their number 1 defensive tackle, traded away their number 1 corner. Now, that's not to say they have given up. They compete. They fight hard. They won last week, but again, we always talk about it. I understand that this is in the Northeast and we're talking about now December and Tua playing outside. So we need to keep that in mind. But what this Dolphins team should be good at and what they have in the past is beating up on below average to bad to awful teams. And so this should be a spot or two in the passing game get going to.
Without Sauce Gardner on the field, the Jets are allowing the third most yards after the catch per reception, which is exactly how the Dolphins move the ball. And that's how Jaylen Waddle gets his explosives is after the catch. So I'm expecting a lot of like quick hitting stuff to Waddle and let him boogie. I will say like the last month is like not gone swimmingly for Waddle and like the wide receiver usage for the Dolphins. I believe they're dead last in actually how much they're using their receivers this month. But I think that was kind of like an outlier. I think the bigger sample without Tyreek Hill, this is kind of where he's been at. So Dolphins only projected for 21.25 points against the Jets, but there's only so many guys they can get the football to. It's a lot of Devon Achane, of course. It's Waddle and then a little bit of Darren Waller after that. And hopefully he can this could be one of these games where he has a 40-yard after the catch touchdown.
Okay, Justin Jefferson has been buried from wide receiver 17 to about wide receiver 20 over these last few weeks. Again, because we're recording this prior to Thursday Night Football, but posting it after, 3 names are not attached here that are going to be ranked ahead of Justin Jefferson technically in Hayden's rankings, which are in the description down below. But for this purpose, he's your wide receiver 10 against the Washington Commanders. Why?
Well, because you got to rank somebody at wide receiver 10. We'll get to some of the next games. It's been a big up and down roller coaster. I will say this, and how I wrote about this on Underdog Network. I said, who is worse, J.J. McCarthy or this Commanders defense? And I think that's a fair question because right now the Commanders are without Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos, their top two outside corners. They're allowing the most yards after the catch per reception, the most yards per catch period to wide receivers. This is a dome game, which I keep bringing up like now that's December because when you're not in the dome, now you're actually in weather and wind and whatnot. They're in dome. They're at home. The team total's at almost 22 points, which is basically about league average too. So I don't want to like quadruple count that it's JJ McCarthy out there. Of course, I'm nervous as hell. He keeps missing him. I'm not expecting McCarthy to play well. Just the way the offense is set up, there's still a lot of downfield passes, and if they can just connect on one or two of them instead of going 0 for 6 on those, that's going to make a big difference here. So I'm just like, it's more of a Justin Jefferson versus these like backup corners than anything.
Off a 4-yard performance, it can only get better from here, we hope.
I can guarantee that. No, it cannot get worse than Prosmer.
Yeah, I mean, as you just outlined, the Commanders statistically in every category, one of the worst coverage units in the league. So we'll see what happens. All right. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver 11, he has the inverse typical rookie season production, was on a hot streak, on absolute fire to open the year. He still, though, has received 8 or more targets in 6 straight games. However, dropping a couple passes over that time span. And most importantly, I think Baker Mayfield has played worse over that time span, has left us with less Emeka Egbuka points in our fantasy lineups.
This month, he's wide receiver 29, but on wide receiver 10 usage. So I know he's a good football player. The Buccaneers offense is good. They're projected for the 7th most points. That's at 25 here. There shouldn't be that much weather in this one as well. So I just want to like believe in this offense kind of just rebounding eventually. I do not know if Mike Evans is going to play. I'm assuming with this ranking that he's going to need another week to come back. But if Mike Evans is in there, I'll move Emeka out there. But we also do need to make like real adjustments. And there's like 4 or 5 games where Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were both out. He was at the wide receiver 5 in usage over that sample. In the 4 games with Chris Godwin in, but Mike Evans missing, which is what I'm projecting here, that's like wide receiver 19 usage. So I think he's firmly more of a wide receiver 2, but I do not think he's like the wide receiver 4 that he's been producing like recently either.
If you are anything like me, you wait until the last minute to get certain people in your family gifts. It can be extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even sometimes parents, grandparents. I have the perfect one for all of you. Yes, bang. It's the Aura Carver Mat frame. The cool thing about Aura is everything's online. You can just straight upload from your phone pictures into this frame. One, your parents, grandparents, whatever, will not annoy you any longer to say, hey, send me a photo of your child, my grandchild, so on and so forth. And 2, I mean, you can even look at this. Take off this slide. It's already set up perfectly to just be wrapped. It looks nice. It has free unlimited photo storage. Again, as soon as you take a photo of, let's say, your kid's soccer game, or man, they take their first steps, boom, upload to your Aura frame, and they see it instantly from their living room. It's going to turn to like their favorite activity just to see the new photos every single morning. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code THESHOW at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code THESHOW. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. T. Higgins, you already talked about Jamar Chase. T. Higgins coming back from a concussion. Anything you want to add here?
Just looking at like the last 365 days, T. Higgins is the wide receiver 15 per game. So that's kind of where I'm going to keep sticking him at. I talked about it. Joe Burrow, I thought, looked good last week. Was it really able to spin the football? I think it's going to be more challenging against the Bills corners right now. And then also just the snow, like the toe, you're wearing a plate and now you got the snow. I don't know. I'll probably tinker with this as we get closer and keep studying Kevin Roth.
Okay. Your next 2 are both Eagles. It's DeVonta Smith and then A.J. Brown. Obviously, A.J. Brown, double-digit targets in 3 straight games. There are good things happening because of those double-digit targets, not necessarily for the offense as a whole, but for AJ Brown, which we care about.
That's what he cares about.
Correct. This is at the LA Chargers, Monday Night Football.
Yep.
The Eagles has slightly gone up in their team total, but it's still stuck at 22 points right now.
Right. So with the Chargers, this one's fascinating because AJ Brown's playing much better recently than before. But over the last 365 days, these two guys are ranked very close to each other per game. It's both like in this range. So I do think it is a toss up. This is one of these games where I talk about the man coverage versus zone coverage splits, because right now the Chargers have played the least man coverage snaps on defense across the league. It's a huge zone team, a lot of two high shells over the past 2 years. Yards per route versus zone coverage. AJ Brown's at 1.8. DeVonta Smith's at 2.2. So like slightly over to DeVonta Smith. Now, AJ Brown's been so good recently that I think it is truly about even. So I think they're both upside wide receiver twos. I obviously have concerns with the Eagles offense. I think the Chargers defense is like decent, but it's not great either.
I think it's well coached. They just don't have like that many pieces along the defensive line right now.
Agree. Yeah. And at corner too. They're fine. They're fine at up the middle, but on the perimeter where DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown do most of their damage, I think they're pretty mediocre. So we'll see.
Courtland Sutton. I mean, it felt like a season high performance last week, and now he's back in your top 15. And this is at the Las Vegas Raiders. Can he go back to back here?
Yeah, I called that one last week just based off of the matchup and the team total. And I'm just kind of doubling down with that. Broncos are at a 24 team total. They're playing in Las Vegas Dome over there as well. So I think he's going to continue to beat his like where he's been the last month. I think if you look at the last 2 years, this is where he's been. And we just kind of like got sideways when they were like flirting with Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant and everybody else. But I've noticed the ground game's less consistent. Maybe that means they're going to pass the ball a little bit more. Hopefully Bo Nix can start playing a little bit better. But ultimately, I know Courtland Sutton's good. I know he's their best wide receiver and the team total's high. And I know that the Raiders can't stop anybody on top of that.
Okay, let's talk about Terry McLaurin because he rounds out your top 16 here in his return to the lineup. And this was Marcus Mariota. He only played, 52% of the snaps, but he still drew 14 targets in that span, had 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. If I'm trying to read between the lines of the practice report, it certainly seems like Jayden Daniels is going to be back for this game too at the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, it's possible. Is it limited? They have to test things out. I'm not sure. But how Marcus Mariota has been playing recently, I think it's fine either way. Obviously, we know Jayden's better in the long run, but an injured Jayden versus how Mariota's been playing, I think it's about even. I did feel Terry McLaurin's presence and how much they can attack down the field, which we had not seen for a very long time. And then also in the red area too, they'll throw the ball up to Terry down there. So it was like a bunch of big fade routes and then on tape last week, and he absolutely shredded. So he should be back out there for full snaps here. It was a season high 27 expected points last week, despite not playing all the snaps. The Commanders defense is always just going to be giving up points. They're going to be chasing in a lot of these games. And at the same time, the Vikings defense is very good. There's some pros and cons to this one, but this is kind of where he's been for the last calendar year.
I won't repeat this when we get to Deebo. I actually think it can help Deebo too, because everything's expanded. Yes. The field gets pushed a little bit more, and that can open some space, especially against some of the zone things that the Minnesota Vikings run. Yes. So I'm not saying, Deebo is now over 100 yards and he's going to outperform Terry McLaurin, but I do think with another person in there that isn't freaking Jalen Lane or Luke McCaffrey or these guys.
Nobody.
It's one of those where, hey, the offense just improves because there's more blades of grass that they can attack. Okay. Speaking of, Jakobi Meyers attacks the exact blades of grass that Liam Cohen wants. His route chart when working over the middle of the field over and over and over again, it makes sense why they traded for him. Brian Thomas Jr., as we know, was not a fan of attacking that area of the field to open the season. Now they get the Indianapolis Colts here, and he's your wide receiver 17.
So we want to come back to this one because the forecast calls for some rain, so we'll have a better update. But I do think where Jakobi Meyers wins, that would impact him less. It's all the underneath stuff. I almost screenshotted every single time when Jakobi catch the ball, and I wanted to highlight where Brian Thomas was on the all-22, because it would typically be about 30 yards down the field, and Jakobi Meyers settling underneath. So that's what the offense is. It is a lovely game. He's been the wide receiver 20 and wide receiver 43 usage this month. His feet are wet in the offense. They love it. He's projected for 51.5 total yards here. And the Colts have also allowed the most screen targets to wide receivers. And I do think that when you see some weather, you can go to the screen game, and then also Jakobi Meyers, like a physical player, and they've already threw him some screens in the last couple of weeks. And then lastly, Parker Washington left with a hip injury, has not practiced yet. He was actually in 2 wide receiver sets, which I will bring up with Brian Thomas. But Parker Washington can work over the middle. If you remove him, now it's like guaranteed it's going to be a lot of Jakobi.
Christian Watson is the Packers wide receiver 1, at least statistically lately. And now he gets the Chicago Bears secondary. The Bears have been vulnerable down the field. They're 29th in terms of covering targets 20 plus yards. Now, that used to only be Christian Watson's game, and he's, elevated his game a little bit more on those 12, 14, 17 yard patterns on top of it. And we know that AJ Brown still got the best of this Bears secondary last week, even if they got a bit healthier.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are back. He's going to see more Jalen Johnson on the outside, but Watson's just been like running by dudes. He looks like completely healthy, and Jordan Love's playing unbelievable football. And you just never know when like these corners come back from injury. It's an impossible job to play corner in the NFL. When you're coming off of injury, you just like never know what version we're going to get. So team totals really high up. He's wide receiver 17, wide receiver 26 usage this month. It's going to be really cold. It's Green Bay in December, but it doesn't look like it's going to be snowing. So it might be like 22 degrees, but at least not snowing. So I think it's a fine enough matchup, but also think the Bears are getting a lot healthier on defense. So this isn't like a layup line either.
Okay, we have another back-to-back pair. That's Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. Again, they're on the opposite end of this Jacksonville Jaguars game. Jaguars 10th in the league in terms of their rate of too high safety. We know Michael Pittman, 3rd game in a row, he was held to less than 30 yards receiving. But if we think about, we've talked about these matchups all season long. If it's too high, that kind of turns into a Michael Pittman game. If it's single high stuff, that's when we get the electricity of Alec Pierce, who is aiming to go back to back in terms of leading the NFL in yards per reception.
Yeah, Pierce has been so good, but I had the same notes here. The Jaguars have the 5th most 2 deep shell snaps in general. Also the 16th most single high snaps, because teams are choosing to pass the ball against Jacksonville at the highest rate. So there's just going to be more dropbacks in general. It's just how every team schematically takes their chances against Jacksonville. So I think we just saw like the worst Michael Pittman stretch of his basically in like the last like couple years, aside from his back injury days. This last month, he's much better than his numbers are recently. And if Daniel Jones is going to be scrambling around, if the ground game's not going to be running over everybody, then it would make a lot of sense if Michael Pittman had a good bounce back game.
My favorite pick here, I mentioned it in the running back ranking show. It's now updated. It's Jonathan Taylor higher than his 17.5 receiving yards. There you go. Again, go and play an underdog. We're in over 40 states right now. 40. Amazing. Ladd McConkey all the way down as wide receiver 21. He's wide receiver 17 in consensus rankings. He's playing the bulk of his slot snaps this year. Eagles have been really good at covering the slot. What we need is the dude that is playing opposite Quinyon Mitchell to be attacked. And maybe that can be Ladd McConkey. I mean, they could put him out there if they wanted to. So we'll see what happens here.
I'm going white on white crime here. Cooper DeJean versus Ladd McConkey. It's going to be a good one. But here's the problem. The damn Chargers are projected for less than 19 points. It's the same as the Jets, who will get to their number 1 wide receiver literally next year. But this month, Ladd McConkey is the wide receiver 21 on wide receiver 40 usage. The offensive line is a complete joke. Luckily for the Chargers, Jalen Carter at least is not going to be playing here. Like, that was going to get very bad. But they still have Jalen Phillips and Jordan Davis and other edge rushers. And it's still Vic Fangio in the secondary. So it's a very, very tough spot for the Chargers in general. Not to mention that Justin Herbert's playing through a broken hand. So Ladd McConkey's been the wide receiver 11 over the last calendar year. I moved him down about 10 spots from there. I think that's totally fair based off of the environment that we found ourselves in.
You see Darius Slay got claimed by the Bills, and he's basically forcing himself to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, I totally understand it. You've played this many years. They also traded you or let you go? Anyways,
Mhm.
they did put in a claim in, so I'm assuming that maybe some things were behind the scenes, that this is what they wanted to happen. But yeah, he is suggesting retirement or playing for Philadelphia.
He's seen the weather in Buffalo this time of year.
Next up, one of the best wide receiver talents in the NFL, Adonai Mitchell. This is against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, we've had numerous games now as a New York Jet. One, he did all the difficult stuff and then couldn't come down with the catches. Last week, it was all the out patterns against, soft releases and then one shot over the top. Adonai Mitchell has timed his, I'm going to say resurgence, but these performances extremely well as the Jets head into the offseason with a bunch of draft picks and some free agency money. Because to me, if he proves himself over these last final 5 weeks, then he has a great chance of being like their wide receiver 2 next season.
Yeah, I think he's well on pace for that. He's just got a lot of traits that you want to work with. And the Jets have all the time in the world to figure out if he's a real talent or not. This month, he's wide receiver 32 and wide receiver 14 usage. Wide receiver 14 usage. So if he catches the ball, he's got plenty of juice as a top 20 guy potentially. Last week was a season high. I couldn't believe all the quick out routes that he was getting out there. Some of those are designed first read targets. Some of it Tyrod Taylor kind of escaping. But you start Tyrod Taylor to see what you got with Adonai Mitchell. So the matchup with the Dolphins, I mean, credit to their staff. The Dolphins defense, by every metric, is just so much better now than what it was in September when we were like literally mocking them. But yeah, the Jets are projected for pretty much the same amount as the Chargers this week at around 19 points, which is enough to get some fancy production.
It's pretty amazing that he's ranked above Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is your wide receiver 23. This is against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just one game this season, Zay Flowers has scored as a top 20 wide receiver.
And when was that?
Football, half PPR. And that was in week 1.
Yeah.
When he was the wide receiver 1 overall. Right. So I'm going to be mentioning that a lot this summer of, hey, let's keep in mind week 1 performances don't mean the rest of the year, because
for sure
you go from the overall wide receiver 1 to never being inside the top 20 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I have a very similar metric here. The last 365 days, Zay Flowers is the wide receiver 43 per game. Wide receiver 43. I mean, he's got to start scoring some touchdowns. Like
that is not his job. I mean, they just extended Mark Andrews 3 years to score touchdowns.
And I hated that, and he's just going to have to deal with it. But yeah, Zay Flowers is like a number 2 productive guy. He's great in a scramble drill. Problem is Lamar's not scrambling as much right now. And they're not scoring as many points. And then we had some weirdness in that last game. So he's a very difficult guy to rank because he's been probably the most overranked player in fantasy the last 2
Overrated
years. I mean, just every week where we rank him versus where he scores.
Yep.
I don't know. Did have this though against the Steelers, who I think their defense is pretty whatever. He had 100 yards, and then he had 39 yards and a touchdown, and then 73 yards in his last 3 games. So those were reasonable numbers.
It's an important game too. I mean, the AFC North is kind of on the line in this one for the team to take the lead. So we will see. Okay. I mentioned my thoughts on Deebo Samuel at the Minnesota Vikings. Anything you want to add here?
In 5 games with Terry McLaurin, he has wide receiver 27 usage. I think that's about right here.
DK Metcalf on the opposite end of that Baltimore Ravens occasion. I feel like this is worst case scenario matchup for him in terms of low ADOT and a good tackling defense means he just is going to rack up 6-yard receptions or 5-yard receptions. Even if he gets targeted a number of times, he'll have to break a tackle for a long gain, and that's it.
Yeah, like Zay Flowers, he's the wide receiver 38 over the last 365 days, so he's kind of been overranked in general. The way that they're playing football, that Ben Solak stat that you had, that 67% of their receiving yards are after the catch this year, that is still blowing my mind. But you feel it. They're just not even attempting to throw the ball downfield, which is why did you trade for DK Metcalf if the plan was to not throw the ball down the field? But I think just Rodgers is just incapable of doing that right now.
That brings us to your wide receiver 26, and that is Chris Godwin, who it felt like just as once he returned previously this season, he's getting open and just kind of his hands aren't coming to the party as of yet. But as we know, that's not necessarily sticky, and that can change on any given week. So I know this will change if Mike Evans is involved too, but for now, Chris Godwin is your wide receiver 26.
I thought he was a little bit faster this last game than he was previously. He's not like himself. And I think that you're not going to see as many like crazy stop and go moments from Chris Godwin. And then he has to just catch the ball. If he's not going to catch the ball anymore, then it doesn't matter. But I'm assuming that that'll get ironed out. And then Tampa Bay, they're still projected for 25 points. It's against the Saints defense. Like it's relative to the rest of the league. This is a pretty sweet spot for Chris Godwin. So he's not been producing like this, but I'm going to give him another week until Mike Evans comes back to the party. And then I think Chris Godwin's that'll be an uphill battle.
Okay. We've already started the rough conversations in this tier. It'll only be rough conversations the rest of the way. Romeo Doubs is out there all the time. He's getting targets. Mm-hmm. He just needs to catch all the targets. And that has actually kind of been, I feel like just watching him, an issue over these last few weeks.
Yeah, last like few years, but it kind of comes and goes with him. He'll get like red hot and then kind of go back away. So Christian Watson's been, kind of eating his lunch recently, but like you said, he doesn't really come off the field. And he's not going to be facing Kyler Gordon very often. So I do think that he has a decent matchup on the perimeter. We'll see about Jaden Reed's status, Matthew Golden's status, but I think Romeo Doubs' routes are for the most part safe. And their team total is good. Just the way that Jordan Love's playing right now, I just want to like lean into the team totals that are high.
Well, Brian Thomas Jr. is next. He's your wide receiver 28. Best notes in BTJ's factor, no Sauce and likely no Parker Washington. Maybe that means one of these over the top love of the game routes turns into broken play. Oh, BTJ is wide open and behind the defense. Let's hit him on it and go.
I pretty much have nothing to add to that. Like That's just kind of where this thing goes. Brentley did note though, and it was true, Parker Washington was playing ahead of BTJ in 2 wide receiver sets before his injury. That's just like, that's pretty wild. We're probably not going to have to deal with that this week, but I think that was like a signal of what is going on in Jacksonville with BTJ right now.
Interesting offseason ahead for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
One to monitor, potentially. Romeo Odunze, your wide receiver 29. This is at the Green Bay Packers. Is he dealing with an injury here? I think I saw some.
But, yeah.
Okay. So if he doesn't play, obviously he is off this list. But if he's in, maybe him just being out would solve the headache for a lot of fantasy players, not knowing if they should start him or not.
Yeah, it's one of those guys that you do so well that you have to keep giving him the benefit of the doubt until you've eliminated yourself. I don't know. He's super frustrating to me.
Did you just suggest if you play Romeo Odunze, you are self-eliminating?
Well, because you're like giving him the benefit of the doubt. You're like, this will be the week he turns around, and all of a sudden you were 3-1, and now you're 4-7. He's frustrating. I know he's good. I know Caleb is good, and I think it might just take some time for those two guys to kind of work things out. Ben Johnson was taking shots at the pass game. I don't think that just meant Caleb. He was talking about the receivers, like you got to line up at the right spot, run the right route depth. I think that's for everybody. And at the same time, we talked about it. What do teams do against the Packers? They run the ball, and then the team totals at 19 points. So I think Romeo Odunze is like not a must play.
On top of that, since the bye week, 27% of Romeo Odunze's targets have been inaccurate. So just over a quarter of the passes in his direction are just uncatchable. So yeah, it's a bunch of things right now. But I mean, they're still number 1 in the NFC. And if that gets right, it's an even better team.
Mm-hmm.
That's the positive spin. Jayden Higgins, your wide receiver 30 at the Kansas City Chiefs, playing a lot of snaps, second most at wide receiver, big body dude who can get down the field.
Yeah, I think he's just like a rock solid number 2 wideout. You can play inside and out. I think that he's got a decent feel for the game, could work over the middle, kind of those like big Jakobi Meyers routes and take some big hits. That's going to be effective in the red area. He's been the wide receiver 24 on wide receiver 24 usage this month. And I think they should keep doubling down and using him. And the more they kind of drop back with CJ Stroud and they stop running the ball, which they should, I think that he'll just keep getting utilized. So it's not my favorite matchup in general. Team total is pretty mediocre. But I think that Jayden Higgins is like a very real NFL starter.
Xavier Worthy against that Houston Texans secondary. I mean, I don't even know if you can have any notes here. It is just hit or miss against really good corners here. If they hit one of the deep shots, it can be a 15-point day. If not, then it's potentially a 4-point day.
Yeah. That's what I was saying with JMO earlier this year. You spin that wheel and you hope that this is the week it happens. And more times than not, it doesn't.
Jordan Addison, there's probably nothing you want to add here attached to JJ McCarthy and this Minnesota Vikings passing attack. I will add, Jordan Addison had a pretty brutal drop last week.
Yes, he did. He's had a couple of those over the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those in breakers.
Yeah. Usually he's really good at them. So I think that stuff will even out over time. It's still the Commander's secondary. He's going to be facing backups on the perimeter. And when those ones are so valuable, if he catches those, like his fantasy day is looked at completely differently.
Okay. We've got better conversations here because Devaughn Vele. Yes, that's what Devaughn Vele looks like. Over the past 3 weeks, since Rashee Shaheed Basley was traded, Vele has been on the field for 91% of dropbacks, caught a just ridiculous rainbow touchdown from Tyler Shuck, had some other toe tappers along the sideline. So the olds that are youngs in their contracts seemingly have grown a bond here.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much we can like factor in the like scramble drill stuff, but maybe this like old guy, mind meld is to blame there. He's just not coming off the field. And I think that the Saints have graduated from the Titans and the Browns and those type of teams. And you're also this week, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass defense versus their run defense. You have like one option to move the ball, to pass the ball. And he's one of the 3 guys they pass the ball to.
Okay. You have Troy Franklin next. Part of my brain wanted to try my best to propose a Pat Bryant ranking here instead of Troy Franklin. Now, that's obviously not an entire year, but if we just look at last week, which, by the way, is coming off a bye week, which is a rookie in Pat Bryant coming off the post-bye rookie bump, Troy Franklin caught 2 of 3 targets for 21 yards. Pat Bryant, 3 of 7 targets for 42 yards. And in fact, Pat Bryant ran more routes than Troy Franklin for the first time this season. I mean, it's my guy at Illinois. No one cared about him in this football bubble that we occupy, but Pat Bryant has the size that Sean Payton previously wanted. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Pat Bryant is an ascending player in this offense the rest of the way.
Yeah, he kind of fits in the Sean Payton mold. Let's
like a younger Devaughn Vele. Well, I would say maybe even more upside there, but we'll see.
Yeah, no. What have you seen from Pat Bryant just like this year in general? It's like pretty much where he was.
Just awesome hands, man. Like he's just smooth. I would say there's nothing that pops from his game in terms of his movement aesthetically. But as we talked about, coming out of Illinois, he had some of the best hands in the class. And I think you're seeing that. And he is just there and available on these quick slant passes when they need them on, second and medium or 3rd and 4 stuff. And so I think he's earning more and more work. I'm not saying he's totally overtaken Troy Franklin. This was just last week. And Troy Franklin's done some amazing stuff inside the red zone this season. But Pat Bryant might be a name to watch.
I mean, Troy Franklin career, just looking at this, 5.8 yards per target. I mean, that's just like not usable. You know what? Let's do it. We're gonna do it blindly. Whoa. Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, switch them up. Do you have them on here somewhere?
Nope.
Well, who can we put it? Hey, Weaves, we have an editor for a reason. Throw something up there. Help us out.
Let me see if I can add him mid. This might screw up literally everything that we have done this entire way. High. Hopefully not. Bang. There we go.
By the way, Pat Bryant was an elite interview. Just elite.
Oh my gosh. I'm just saying, if you're in a dynasty league, Pat Bryant, there we go. Tre Tucker is up next. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's Patrick Surtain this week, right? I mean,
yeah.
The team total's at 16 and a half, but he's on the field a bunch. He's their wide receiver 1. I didn't want to float this to you just when you're watching the Raiders games. Tell me if you're noticing more corners lining up with Brock Bowers. And instead of teams viewing Brock Bowers as a tight end, there's you're a receiver, we're just putting a corner on you. And guess what happens? Those routes feel a little bit different. So we'll see.
My other proposal for the show was for Khalil Shakir to be ranked higher. Now, I get it. It might just be like anywhere from 3 targets to 6 targets, right?
Right.
But we're talking about a tackle breaker against a defense that struggles to tackle, plus a high scoring contest, albeit in the elements. That Bengals defense, to me, screams a Khalil Shakir type contest.
Yeah, they've been much better at defending receivers than the other positions, but Shakir is like not a wide receiver at all. So you can sell me that like all of those metrics that we target apply to Shakir more. Yeah, I don't think I'll see that much of DJ Turner. He is still in a rotation though. But where would you move him to?
Just ahead of Tre Tucker.
Let's do it. The Josh segment. I like this at the end. Is Josh throwing in some dart throws like the DFS plays?
Well, DJ Moore went from 2 touchdowns to 2 catches. Anything you want to add about him? I mean, if Romeo Doubs is out, then you have to move DJ Moore and maybe even above him, my guy Luther Burden.
Yeah, maybe. My bias against Luther Burden though. DJ Moore has been the wide receiver 31 on wide receiver 35 usage this month. Like he is a flex play. I just think that the Chicago Bears are going to try to run the ball on the Packers as much as they can. That's what most offenses do against them. And then the team total is still only at 19 points. It'll be 25 degrees. So I think not many pass attempts in this one. So
okay, to close this thing out, that is John Mechie. That is Darnell Mooney against Seattle's secondary. By the way, Mooney has run a route on 97% of dropbacks with Kirk Cousins. His target share, if we're talking about target earners, 15% and 16%. Oh. And then Josh Downs closes this thing out.
Who is getting targeted in Atlanta? It's like all Kyle Pitts and Bijan.
Kyle Pitts? It's all Kyle Pitts.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
And David Sills has some stuff too. David Sills is legitimately their wide receiver too. David Sills has been in the league forever. In like his 8th season now, he's playing more than he ever has before. And I've known about his name, obviously because of USC legend getting, what was it, a Lane Kiffin scholarship
he got an offer at like
in 5th grade.
Yeah, it was wild.
As
before
a
at NIL. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Found out he was actually a wide receiver at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Anyways, David Sills will not be making this list. He's your wide receiver 41. Kidding.
So yeah, going back to Mechie, I guess. Last week was a season high, 10.8 expected half PPR points. He's out there as the number 2. The Tyrod Taylor offense is like somewhat watchable. They scored a bunch of points this last week. Yeah, he's like a fine enough talent. He's, I think, a replacement level starter wide receiver 3-4. But that's enough for the Jets right now.
Okay. That does it. Hopefully you're on the good end of all the action that happened on Thursday night. We have one more preview show. That'll be quarterbacks and tight ends, basically a game-by-game preview. Hopefully you're tuning into that one every single week. And then we'll be back here on Sunday morning for the Start Sit show to get your last-minute questions in for the last regular season game week for fantasy football. And then on to the playoffs, where I know 90% of you are in.
I just had to mention this because we're probably never going to mention him again. The Tom Kennedy photo. I know you're into the thumbnails and stuff. Have you seen his headshot on there?
Yeah, he's a senator. Unfortunately for Tom Kennedy, I don't know if you saw this. Amon-Ra St. Brown must have gotten the best beaver tranquilizer of all time. Amon-Ra is playing.
Whoa. Well, that ruins my next 30 minutes in trying to adjust these rankings as quickly as I can. But fight on.
We'll let Hayden go and do that. Up the Vele. Talk to y'all soon. See ya.